So you've decided to go mobile. Congratulations. You didn't just buy a tablet, you bought a camera, you bought a microphone, an internet connected endpoint, a potential HIPAA violation, a cybersecurity incident, a call from compliance, a call from legal. The reason everyone suddenly knows your name. And they're definitely not glad you came. Let's keep that from happening, shall we? Hey, I'm Matthew. I spent over 10 years implementing and administering CMMS systems, and over that time, I've learned something. Buying a mobile device is the easy part. Getting permission to use them, that's where the fun begins. And trust me, I'm a consultant. I'm a huge tech nerd. If anyone wants an excuse to buy a shiny new gadget, it's me. Give me a reason to buy a new tablet, and I'm already on YouTube watching Adam Talks Tech before you can even finish the sentence. I've also been doing this long enough to know that just because technology can do something doesn't mean your organization is ready for it. Over the last two episodes, we argued both sides of mobile devices. Then we talked about all the ways they can make your technicians question their career choice. We're done arguing. If you missed those two episodes, I'll put the links for them in the description. This episode assumes you've already decided mobile devices make sense for your department. Now, our job is to keep that good idea from going off the rails, because mobile devices don't just affect maintenance, they affect IT. They affect compliance. They affect security. They affect your policies. And depending on where you work, they may even affect legal. None of those are reasons not to go mobile. They're reasons to go mobile more intelligently. So today we're going to answer 3 questions every maintenance department should settle before the first tablet ever leaves the charging dock. Who makes the rules? Who owns the risk? And who owns the device? Because if you can't answer those 3 questions, you're not ready to hand out tablets. All right, so let's start with the first question. Who makes the rules? And if your first answer is maintenance, I've got some bad news for you. Let me tell you about one of my clients. This was a healthcare organization that decided they were going mobile. They invested over $10,000 in tablets. They tagged thousands of assets with QR codes. They had their plan. They were excited. Then they finally invited IT to the meeting. Turns out, IT would not allow the cameras to be enabled on those tablets. Now remember, their whole asset tagging strategy depended on them using the camera to scan their QR codes. Oops. So now they're standing there with thousands of dollars worth of shiny new tablets that can't do the one thing they bought them to do. The solution? Bluetooth barcode scanners. Did they eventually make it work? Yep. Did it cost them more money? Yep. Could all of that have been avoided with one meeting before the purchase? Absolutely. And that's the lesson. Maintenance may own the CMMS. Maintenance may own the rollout. But maintenance does not own all of the rules. IT has rules. Compliance has rules. Safety has rules. Security definitely has rules. And depending on your organization, legal may have a few opinions too. None of those departments are trying to stop your project. They're trying to protect the organization. The trick is getting them involved before you buy the hardware, not after. These aren't barriers, they're planning questions. Invest in the meeting before you invest in the hardware, because buying tablets first and asking questions later is kind of like buying a boat before you ask your wife. You're getting a boat, she's getting a lawyer. Have you ever rolled out a new technology only to discover another department had a rule nobody mentioned? What happened? I'd love to hear those stories in the comments. The second question is simple. Who owns the risk? Because once that mobile device leaves the building, it stops being just a tablet. It becomes an organizational asset, and eventually something is going to happen to it. It'll get dropped, it'll get left in a truck, it'll disappear. That's not pessimism, that's maintenance. Things break, things get misplaced, people get distracted. The question isn't whether something happens. The question is whether you've already decided on what happens next. Can the device be located if lost? Can it be remotely locked? Can the company data be remotely wiped? And that's more important than it sounds, because depending on your organization, that device may contain work orders, asset information, employee information, and maybe even protected health information, whether you like it or not. Losing the hardware is expensive. Losing the data can be much worse. Then there's your organization's IT user acceptance policy, or UAP. Did anybody read it? Or did everyone treat it like every other software agreement and immediately click I agree? Because this isn't an end user license agreement. This one has consequences. It explains what users are responsible for, what they're allowed to do, and what happens if the device is lost or a company policy isn't followed. If you're handing somebody a mobile device, they need to understand what they're accepting, not just click through it because they're trying to get to the home screen. And then there's the questions nobody asks until it's too late. Did you insure the devices? If you're buying rugged cases and tempered glass screen protectors, great. But if one of those fails, does it replace the tablet, or does it just protect it long enough for accounting to ask uncomfortable questions? Again, these aren't barriers. They're planning questions. Can the device be located? Can it be remotely locked or wiped? What does your IT UAP require? What happens if the device is lost, stolen, or damaged? Who pays? Who reports it? Who responds? Those questions shouldn't be answered after something goes awry. They should be answered before the first tablet ever leaves the charging dock. Invest in the meeting before you invest in the hardware, because that meeting should answer every question we just talked about. The last question is, who owns the device? Now, before you answer the company, I guess, I'm not talking about who bought it. I'm talking about who lives with it. Because sooner or later, somebody is going to say, why don't we just let the technicians use their own phones? And if nobody says it, one of your techs will. Probably the one who watches way too much YouTube, loves gadgets, and has already downloaded the CMMS app without asking anybody. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Now I get it. On paper, BYOD, or bring your own device, sounds brilliant. Everybody already has a smartphone and everybody knows how to use it. They've been using it for years. Why buy tablets? Except it isn't that simple. Because bring your own device isn't just a maintenance decision. It's an IT decision, a policy decision, a trust decision, and sometimes a payroll decision. Because if you're asking technicians to use their own personal devices for work, are you paying part of their cell phone bill? What happens if they crack the screen while doing a PM? What happens if the phone is stolen? And then we get to the uncomfortable question. If IT wants to manage that phone, what exactly are they managing? Because technicians are going to ask, can IT see what I'm doing? Can they wipe my phone? Can they track me? Those aren't paranoid questions. Those are fair questions. Remember, that's not just a work phone. That's family pictures, banking, text messages, their entire life in one little rectangle. And here's the part people forget. When a technician clocks out, those security requirements don't clock out with them. If your organization's policy requires device management, stronger passwords, or other security controls, those don't magically disappear at 5. That's a pretty big ask. And there's one more thing almost nobody talks about: perception. I had another client decide they wanted to go with BYOD. On paper, it made sense to them, so they rolled it out. A few months later, employee satisfaction scores went plummeting. And when everybody started asking what changed, the answer was nothing, except perception. Employees kept seeing maintenance technicians staring at their phones. They weren't texting. They weren't watching cat videos. They were closing work orders, looking up asset information, and checking PMs. They were doing exactly what the organization wanted them to do. The employees didn't know that. All they saw was maintenance staring at their phones, and perception became reality. That wasn't a technology problem. That wasn't a technician problem. It was a communication problem. Nobody stopped to explain to the rest of the organization what maintenance was actually doing. If you're going to roll out BYOD, or even company-owned phones for that matter, you may need one more meeting. Not with IT or compliance, but with your internal clients. Let them know why technicians are using mobile devices, what they're doing, and how it's actually helping the organization. People don't judge what your technicians are doing. They judge what it looks like they're doing. So if BYOD is on the table, be transparent. Explain exactly what IT can see, exactly what IT can't see, and exactly what happens if something goes wrong. Because the worst BYOD program is the one where organizations get all the convenience and the technicians get all of the inconvenience. Invest in the meeting before you invest in the hardware. Sometimes that meeting isn't about technology. Sometimes it's about managing expectations. Tell me, would you use your personal phone at work? If the answer is yes, what would your employer have to promise in order for you to do that? All right, so here's your homework. Before you buy a single tablet, before somebody in maintenance gets a little too excited and starts shopping, before your resident tech nerd downloads the CMMS app on his own, have the meetings, talk to IT, talk to compliance, talk to the people who will actually be affected by the rollout. And if you're considering BYOD, talk to your technicians, because the best mobile rollout isn't the one with the newest tech. It's the one where everybody knows the rules. Remember those three questions? Who makes the rules? Who owns the risk? Who owns the device? If you can answer those, you're probably ready to hand out tablets. If you can't, you're not ready yet, and that's okay, because answering those questions now is a whole lot cheaper than answering them after the rollout. One more thing, if mobile devices are changing the way your department works, update your SOP. And while you're at it, update your training, because changing the process without changing the documentation is confusing. Changing the documentation without changing the training is just wishful thinking. Your SOP should explain how mobile devices are used. Your training should explain how to use them correctly. If the process changes, the SOP changes, the training changes. I did an entire episode on writing effective SOPs. I'll link it in the description because it fits perfectly with today's discussion. And eventually we're going to do an entire episode on how to implement mobile devices. We'll go deeper into pilots, training, device selection, connectivity, and rollout strategy. Today's episode wasn't the implementation guide, it was the planning guide, because good implementations start long before somebody opens that first box. So before you spend $10,000 on tablets, spend 1 hour making sure you're buying the right solution. If you'd like to help planning your workout, reviewing your workflow, or even helping facilitate those conversations with IT, compliance, security, or other stakeholders, I'd be honored to help. You'll find my contact information down below in the description, because I'd much rather help you prevent expensive mistakes. If you found this helpful, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with that one person who thinks rolling out mobile devices is as simple as buying tablets and downloading an app. Trust me, they need this episode. Next time, we're starting a brand new playlist on work orders, and we're starting with work orders, codes, and fields. Specifically, stop making so many damn codes and fields, please. I'm begging some of you. Your CMMS does not need 15 different ways to say waiting, pending, kind of started, almost done. I think Carl looked at it once, but then lunch happened. Your work order type code should not include every possible way a device could break down. And skill code should only work when your technicians actually have those skills assigned to them. Codes are supposed to create clarity. They're supposed to support routing, reporting, workflows, and decision making. They're not supposed to become a junk drawer with a drop-down arrow. So next time we're going to talk all about how to stop turning a simple work order into a choose-your-own-adventure novel with labor charges. If today's episode made you realize your mobile rollout needs a little more fine-tuning, I've got 2 videos for you. Click here if you want to update your SOP, and click here if you want to update your training. Those 2 things alone will make your mobile rollout dramatically more successful. I'll see you on the other side. Remember, I'm Matthew, and this is the SaaSy Guy, where every work order tells a story.